The Reserve Bank has confirmed it's tightening the screws again on home lending in a bid to rein in the housing market. New rules for investors and owner-occupiers will come into effect on October 1st. Most investors in Auckland will need to have at least a 40% deposit, up from 30%. Investors elsewhere will also need 40% under the new rules, compared with at least 20% now. Housing affordability, or the lack of it, of course, is something that the government is being really pushed on. And they've been, in recent weeks, talking up the biggest building boom in Auckland in history. But is that really the case? And what difference will tighter home lending restrictions have? Financial analyst Bernard Hickey is the publisher of Hive News. You can find it online. He's been doing fascinating work on the building boom. He joins us now live from the Wellington studio. Welcome back to Checkpoint, Bernard. It's always nice to have you with us. Can we talk about the LVRs for investors and owner-occupiers? Will they make a difference?
Well, they might slow down prices temporarily. That's what we've seen with the first two versions of the LVRs. And certainly outside of Auckland, where there isn't quite such a supply shortage, it might have quite an impact. However, there's still plenty of demand coming in from migration and population growth, particularly in Auckland. Interest rates are low to falling, and so not too many people have great hopes that this is the silver bullet to stop the house price rises.
No, and I want to talk about the building boom because I'm fascinated by your work on this. But just before that, Vancouver and the tax on foreign buyers, which has seen a real fall in both the number of sales and the value of property. John Key didn't sound that keen on it when he was asked about it on Morning Report this morning. Is there any way whatsoever this government will look at that kind of thing?
Well, John Key has already floated the idea a couple of times. You're right, this morning he said he doesn't think there's that much of an issue with foreign buyers, although, again, he's relying on some flawed data, which I suspect we'll find out more later on this year and early next year, will show that the percentage of foreign buyers is a bit higher than the net 1% he talked about this morning. Also, it's in his back pocket if he needs to, before the election, be able to fight back against not just Winston Peters, but the Greens and Labour, who are saying they would ban foreign buying. He says that restrictions, or more importantly, a land tax or a stamp duty on foreign buyers would be permissible under our free trade agreements. Although, interestingly, this morning he did point out that China may be an exception under those free trade agreements. So that's the risk.
Yeah. Can we turn to the supposed, the much discussed and widely touted construction boom in Auckland and the amount of building work actually going on? Why aren't the numbers as good as they might appear on the surface, Bernard?
Well, because actually in 1974, all that time ago, we were building so many more houses proportionate to our population. So right now, Auckland is building about 6 houses per 1,000 people. Back in 1974, Auckland was building 16 houses, so more than twice as many as it is now. And one of the problems we have is that for at least a decade, we haven't been building nearly enough houses in Auckland to deal with the population growth, because Auckland has not only got lots of migration, but it's got quite a young population, so it's growing quite quickly. And for a bunch of reasons, in particular a lack of government funding for state housing and also government support for private house building, we're not seeing the number of houses being built. And that's obviously going to be one of the big debates ahead of the next election. Who's going to fund these houses that need to be built?
So, on a per capita basis, and if you directly compare with 1974, not as many are being built. What about the value of the properties being built? How much are they costing?
Well, that's the difference. We've got lots of money being pumped into our houses. They're huge houses, the few that are being built, often more than 200 square metres. We're talking about McMansions here, the 4 or 5 bedroomed, 2 romper-roomed, 3 garage houses. Unlike in 1974, when we were building 2, maybe 3 bedroomed, fairly simple houses. And that's because back then, to be able to buy a house with a state advances loan, so this is a government subsidised loan, you had to buy a particular house that was built under a government plan. So there was a group building scheme which specified how big the house would be. Now, at the moment, the only houses that are being built are the ones that are frankly being paid for by people with lots and lots and lots of money. And because developers see that's where the highest margins are on these expensive bits of land. So we're not seeing the affordable houses built at the scale we were back in the 60s and through into the 70s.
Bernard Hickey, the publisher of Hive News, Hive News. Thanks so much, Bernard. We really appreciate your time.